Welcome to Author Mastery Insights. I am with Roy Cammarano, and oh my gosh, if you are ready to have genius in the room blowing your mind, this is an opportunity. Welcome, Roy. It's wonderful to connect again.
It is absolutely spectacular to connect again as a former Australian resident and a soon-to-be visitor again. I'm ecstatic about talking to you and the chiropractors that you represent. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I'm going to provide a little bit of a bio background that cannot even hope to do justice to the mind and the impact of Roy. So, but before I do,
make sure you tell him I'm good looking. That's important.
He's absolutely good looking, incredibly charismatic. His intelligence is trumped by those things without doubt. So you have the full package, the absolute epitome of Adonis here before us in any way, shape and form. This is going to be awesome though. So Roy started his business ventures in 1983, which seems implausible because he still looks 25, by selling memberships to a health club after attending a seminar on a non-manipulative sales program. 3 years later, he'd become the executive president of the San Francisco Business Times, and in 1987 was hired by Don Keogh of the American City Business Journals, and to help manage a new business venture, which would become a startup, and then, go change the world in unexplored markets, and then became extremely successful, not just with his time in that organization, but helped it reach an Inc. 500 index. And then by 1996, was president of the American Teleconferencing Services and president also of Maxcom as an executive vice president of the American Cities Business Journals. He went on to operate at a massive level, service president on 3 Inc. 500 companies, and he's possibly within the chiropractic profession. And by the way, that we're talking significant, deliberate pause, professional status in organizations chiropractors don't even think of for the most part. Best known for his association and relationship with Dr. Dan Pomper and his associated companies, and the impact that he's had there is nothing short of profound. He's also a incredibly compelling author, multiple books, but the one I have, which I'm so proud, he's got his signature in there, so overjoyed to have Entrepreneurial Transitions from Entrepreneur Genius to Visionary Leader. He addresses stages. He's an entrepreneur's genius. He elevates people's consciousness in business. So excited to have you, brother.
Well, thank you very much for all of that. And what I have to really address is I've been under constant chiropractic care since 1976. So now you're dealing with a person who's there, and I completely believe in the profession. I've used hundreds of chiropractors, and I consistently and always take myself and my children, my wife and everybody to chiropractors. In fact, today I was at a chiropractor. I had not only an adjustment from Hank Williams, but I also had a TRT session as well as a laser session and a full adjustment. So I'm a big believer. As a competitive athlete, it helped me, and as a competitive business person, it helped me. So I'm ecstatic with chiropractors. In the United States, I can talk a little bit about chiropractors not being their own best friends in their infighting and not helping to promote their professions. But I think that right now the world needs to hear from you, the chiropractor, as being the most important medical professional group addressing people's concerns and needs in the community today. That's you guys, you men, you women, you educators and entrepreneurs, because the message you have is dear to my heart, and more importantly, can change the world. So conversation there is, well, okay, great. That's a great thing to say. So that's what you got to do. Well, how do you go about doing that? Marcus talked a little while ago about my first book. And let me tell you a little bit about why I wrote that first book. I was frustrated. I worked with entrepreneurs and I was trying to do things, and the entrepreneurs had a very particular behavioral style, and I couldn't understand why they kept doing the same thing over and over again. And I eventually figured out that if I understand what an entrepreneur does behaviorally, I can help that entrepreneur strategically and tactically to accomplish great goals. So that's what I did. Is I wrote a book about the behaviors of entrepreneurs, and that book did incredibly well. Then that led to lots of other things that you get to do. The thing that you have to understand in your life is that there's only two things you can give. All that you have and still have all that you started with is all your love and all of your knowledge. And you have an obligation to give that knowledge to people because you love it, and they're going to love you for doing it. So what's your first question now that I've pontificated?
Oh, I love that. And actually, before I even go to all the questions I had in relation to your book and what I want to discuss here, I just want everybody to hear what Roy just said. Chiropractic changes the world. You have in your hands, in your mind, the capacity to serve humanity on a profound and powerful level. If you don't have that in your heart, and you've just heard a person who is not a chiropractor recognize that undeniable and immutable truth, take his belief, take ownership of that belief, and take that belief into practice next week on your next session. And your practice is going to grow, it's going to change, it's going to impact at a higher level, and you're going to be incredibly happier, healthier, wealthier, more successful, even more impactful because of that. And so on that regard, Roy, again, you are such a profound paradigm shifter and thought creator. I believe it to be true, and you said it was true, if chiropractic is this profound and powerful, how does the chiropractor take ownership of that truth and deliver it within their practice?
On an individual basis, on a collective basis, on a spiritual basis, on an absolute business executable basis. I believe that in order to impact, effect, and affect the world, you have to be willing to have the courage of your convictions. If you have the courage of your convictions, you have to be willing to say those things out loud, write those things down, and stand for those things that you believe in. I wrote all of my books because of one reason. I was frustrated that people didn't have a roadmap on how to do things. When I give advice to entrepreneurs in very close to this situation where they're saying, well, I'm a chiropractor, I'm in an office, or I'm an insurance agent, it really doesn't matter. They're small. How do you get big? Well, today with the way the internet is working and social media, you have a platform ready-made. A long time ago, people didn't have those ready-made platforms. And you can do as simple as this type of a podcast. But what's really important is that if somebody's going to talk about medical care in your community, you should be one of the voices of the people that they're talking to about the importance of what you do. So I have this little saying, if there's going to be news, it's either by me, about me, or it includes me. And what I talk about there is you can write articles, you can write books, you can do those things that have impact. So it's by me. If other people are writing and doing things, it's about the world. It can be about me. And I can show you 5 or 6 Fortune articles from this past year. No, Forbes, I'm sorry, I was in Forbes and Fortune, but in Forbes, 5 or 6 articles about me, and then articles that would include you. Recently, I had where somebody put together a series of quotes, and there were Walt Disney, Bill Gates, Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Motors, and me. Pretty good company. So one of the things that I look at is what's the practical knowledge of, if there's going to be news, it's either going to be by me, it's going to be about me, or it's going to include me. So your local newspaper is talking about something and they have quotes about you doing that. They won't be able to, oh, there it is right there on the screen. They won't be able to find you unless you have done something profound. And when I say profound, it doesn't have to be something other than what you really do. Is you have a unique perspective that you're able to communicate with people effectively. And that's really the only way you prove that is through your speaking, your writing, your relationships. So as you're thinking about doing things, I think that you have a responsibility, an obligation to teach your customers and teach your clients, for them to really understand and become ambassadors. When you're looking at a client, you're not only solving their structural issue, you're potentially solving a huge amount of societal issues simultaneously. So you got to believe in your own dream.
And what you said there about, to be here, quoted amongst Walt Disney, Bill Gates, and as you've said here, I flashed up on the screen, the enlightened business leader is the person who can assist people to self-actualize, I'm trying to reach behind the microphone, through the accomplishment of noble objective or noble dream. And really that's what you've also highlighted in that conversation is we have an incredible noble objective in chiropractic. We have a noble dream, and therefore we can have a profound and powerful impact. I love that, as you said, you are being quoted with world leaders, but you don't do that unless you put your message out there and unless you are willing to be vulnerable enough to share that message and to be confident in standing behind the story that you tell.
Well, I know that the chiropractors in Australia are very familiar with Dr. Dan Pompa, probably the most congruent human being I have ever met. And that congruency is what you have to have. If you believe in those things, you have to live those things. Once you live those things, you move forward. In fact, we used to do a series of programs. In fact, I think he still does it, called Live It to Lead It. And living it to leading it is a really critical thing. Every chiropractor is already doing that. I believe completely in it. Now what it is understanding how to get to another level. And people, I am constantly talked to about people saying, I don't like writing. And I say, okay, then don't write. Talk. And then have somebody else for 99 cents. You can get everything you just said in this entire show for 99 cents or $2 or something. You can get it transcribed into articles, right into exactly what you've written. You can chop that up. You can do it. You can write books just by talking into your computer. If you think you've got good ideas for a book, write down all your ideas on 3x5 cards and then write down why it's a good idea. And then later come back to it and continue to do that. And all of a sudden, 5, 6, 7 months later, you realize you have 200 cards and you have 200 reasons to write. And all of a sudden you have a book, and that book can start out as a series of, it's a checklist, and a checklist becomes, an example paragraph. An example paragraph includes a testimonial, and pretty soon, and yes, I know you can't have testimonials in chiropractic in Australia, so I got it, but you can have other things. But he's so intelligent, you can't say, his spinal manipulations helped me, but you can say the person's incredibly intelligent, charismatic, and I would trust them. And I don't even know if you can use that endorsement, but you have your own rules to work by. And that's the game, is that you can't change the rules if you're not in the game, right? You can hate the player, but you can't hate the game. You have a responsibility, if you're going to be in this profession, to consistently promote as effectively as you humanly can this profession. If you go back to my first thing, it's either buy me, the news is buy me, it's about me, or it includes me. That would mean that, my recommendation, what made me, with the book that he can hold up without any exaggeration, over $20 million. And that's not from book sales. That's from derivatives of having a book and being considered an expert or an authority, where people invite you to do paid speeches, people invite you to do things, but more importantly, they invited me to actually run companies, which is what I like to do. I'm told I'm good at speaking at conferences. I'd rather run a company. It's just what I'd like to do. And I've run companies from as small as 1 to as big as over 13,000 people. So, and I've done it in both the private and the public spectrum, right? The American City Business Schools that you talked about. In 1987, we were Inc. magazine's number 11 fastest small growing public companies in the United States. And I'll never forget that, because while we were getting that, I had been earlier in that year in Australia when the stock market in the United States failed, and I was at Ordmanet in one of your fine cities. And I couldn't believe the stock market fell while I was trying to raise money for a newspaper chain, but that's a whole different story. We all have lots of careers.
Yeah. And what you said there, and I want every chiropractor to hear this, is that in writing a book, your royalties are not the reason to write the book. It is the authority it gives you. It's the positional authority that comes with that. And, to raise, and if you miss that, your book endorsed you to the point, and your skills and your knowledge and your expertise and evidence within your capacity to live within the business, $20 million. So the book isn't the royalty producing thing that it might be for Stephen King. It is the one, make sure you know what you know, develop the knowledge and understanding that you have to the point where you can communicate it effortlessly. And then it allows you that positional authority, that expertise status. And it then transcends every other part of your life, of your practice, because the book gives you that process. So, you spoke about how that's impacted you, your business. I'd love for you, because when I got this book, though, I want to not just talk about what impact it's had. I knew that's obvious. I got this and I read it on the plane. And what I want you to do, and I want everyone to grab a copy of this because it's that profound. What I want you to talk about here is that entrepreneurial transition, because the chiropractor, and there's so many chapters in here that are relevant to the chiropractor as well.
Mm-hmm.
Part I want to talk about is that transition where the chiropractor sees themselves as a clinician, that hands on table back there, wanting to change lives, but also knowing that they can impact more lives if they elevate their thinking to that entrepreneurial mindset. So how does a chiropractor move from clinician and have an entrepreneurial transition? What does that journey look like for them?
Well, there's another book that I would recommend they get in addition to my book. It's called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And Michael's a compatriot, a good friend. He does a really good job of teaching you about working in your business and working on your business as that transition. I would use it kind of like once you can drive a car, when you want to learn to fly an airplane. While they're both modes of transportation, they're way different. And you have to understand that the skills that you learned in driving a car are only partially applicable to flying an airplane. And it's really that different, that you have, as a person, you have to say, this is what I do, okay? And then what you have to say is, but this is what I should be doing. And Peter Drucker, management training expert, says business owner has to ask these three questions. What business am I in? What business will I be in? And what business should I be in? And in today's market, because even if you're a local chiropractor with just one office and you're doing adjustments and stuff, you can still grow a great business. You can hire additional chiropractors, you can do this. But if you're not thinking like a manager, if you're not thinking like a leader, if you're thinking like, I have to do this in order to pay the bills, then you're going to run into a problem, because money goes where energy flows. So if you're only focused in on one thing, then that's the one thing you're going to get. So you have to actually make a decision, a cognitive decision that says, today, I'm in the business of chiropractic. I will be in the business of expanding my chiropractic business to be able to offer other educational services, et cetera, utilizing other healthcare professionals and other people. And then the business I should be in is telling the world how to change. You have to make these conscious decisions and live at effect in your life, not at affect. Constantly I'm told, well, the law doesn't let me do this. The regulation doesn't let me do that. And my comment to that is, okay, tell Elon Musk that an electric car can't be created, right? Or you can't go to Mars. I mean, he just doesn't listen. Tell Warren Buffett you can't make money investing in other people's stocks, right? They have proven it. But what I will tell you is Steve Case has the most profound advice ever. And Steve Case is the former founder of AOL. And he said, vision without execution is hallucination. And we all hallucinate a lot, including me, right? If I do this, if I could do this. But if you sit down and you actually take the time to accomplish it, you will do it. There's another book called Traction. If you don't look at Traction, you really should do that. The Remarkable Practice. If you don't know The Remarkable Practice, please begin to look at that. They're brilliant people there all over Australia. I just think that they've got great tools. I think that Marcus is a great resource, but I think today the conversation is how do we motivate people to take the time to educate others? And the most effective way to do that is through books, tapes, learning modules. Is that you have to decide that it's important to you and important to your business, and not just important to you and important to your business, but important to you, important to your business, and important to your customers, their family, and healthcare in the future. Because if you're not willing to fight that battle, you're going to be living at affect. Everything's happening to me, versus effect. These are the things I'm doing. So I would encourage you to figure out what you need to do. If you can't write, talk, right? And if you can't talk, have somebody follow you around with a video camera when you're talking about things, because in that profoundness is there. I do it all the time. I have a rule in everything I do. Everything's recorded, and it's recorded not because I'm protecting myself. It's because in there somewhere, people are going to contribute to this, and we're going to say, oh my, well, wish I had thought of that before. Well, you had thought of it, you just didn't realize it. Then you take that little idea, you write it down, and then something big comes out of it. I will give you an example. Yesterday, I had to go to the pharmacy. I had to pick up a prescription. I was busy, jumped out of my car, I started walking across the parking lot. As I'm walking across the parking lot, I look down on the ground and I see this sign. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. It says MO7S. I don't know what that means. MO7S. MO7S. I don't know what that means. So as I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't get it. So I walk past the sign. I'm walking, and I'm like, I better turn around and take a look at what MO7S just to make sure it's right. And when I turned around and looked at it, you know what it said? Slow. So contextually, I'm in a parking lot. I should have been able to make the physical, the mental jump to it being slow, but MO7S was so stuck in my head, I couldn't make the change. Of course, when I saw that perspective, I went, oh my goodness, I guess today isn't one of those days where I'm going to be intellectually superior to anyone or even myself. But I'm using it today as a teaching tool because right there, it's not what I was seeing. It was right in front of me when I understood it. It was really an important sign that people in that parking lot needed to go slow. MO7S makes no sense, but what you get is if you have the right perspective, you can actually create the right information. And if you don't have the right inspection, then you have MO7S. And if you still didn't get it, then you really are slow. Sorry.
Oh, wow. You know what? And everyone, you think this conversation elevated your thinking. This book, all the books will be in the link below as well. All of Roy's books are just an incredible mind expansion opportunity, which is why I'm so grateful to have you here, Roy. It's always so humbling speaking with you, so elevating speaking with you. I cannot express my gratitude enough.
Well, I want you guys to do well. I think I think your industry is too important, and I think the job that you do, the role that you play in society, has to expand. I believe that in the bottom of my heart.
And you know what you said there, you know, the three elements of the business, that part, what is your business going to be? Everyone watching this, your business is going to be best-selling author, keynote speaker, sharing the message of chiropractic to transform the health and lives of patients, the community, and the worldwide understanding of chiropractic. And it starts with writing your book, being present on those platforms, taking the advice of this genius here.
It's deciding what's important for you to be known for. This is part of your legacy. This is you and your legacy. What do you want to be known for? What do you want people to say about you? What are you willing to put in writing so people can understand it? Because we all have a message. The internet today and social media is now proving that everybody has something that they want to say and believe it's important enough to say, even if it's as mundane as what they ate last night at dinner. Okay, they all want to be there, but what you have is something that's really important, something you know in your business, your uniqueness. I have a chiropractor friend named Dr. Ken Cooper. He's a member of UAC, which Mark's is a member of. He just became UAC's Chiropractor of the Year. He is working a concussion protocol through chiropractic that will change the world. And if you don't believe me, look up his website and stuff, because he's doing it now real time with a woman who was paralyzed, and he's changing her into being a person who they said would never walk again, into a person who in just 5 chiropractic visits walked. So when he's writing that book, that's a really important conversation to have. And you all have those success stories. And you all have that one little vision of what you have inside of chiropractic that will change for the better everybody who reads it. Once you've written it, getting somebody to read it, that's a whole different problem. But you got to start out later.
But for now, leave your legacy, write the book. Roy, man, I want to call you Dr. Roy. I want to give you an honorary doctor because you've served our profession so profoundly. I appreciate you, brother. Everyone, let's leave a legacy, change the world together.
Thank you. I hope to see you soon.